Hello friends, welcome back to Frontend Techies. In this video, we are going to discuss about how we can make a post request using Fetch API in JavaScript. In my previous video, I have already discussed about how we can make a GET request in JavaScript. So if you have not watched my previous video, I would highly recommend to go and watch my previous video so that you can have a clear understanding about how Fetch API works and how we can make a GET request using Fetch API. This video we are going to talk about how we can handle a post request using Fetch API. So without wasting time, let's get started. So I have created a simple HTML with the basic head and body, and inside the script tag I'm going to handle my post request using Fetch API. So to handle that, I'm going to create a method first. Let's say post data handler, and this is going to be an arrow function. Okay. Now when I want to fire this event, so for that I'm going to create a button in my DOM, and let's say post data, right? And on click of this button, I'm going to fire my event. I'm going to fire post data handler, right? Okay. Now inside post data handler, I'm going to use my fetch request, right? The post request basically. So to handle that, we have a method called fetch, right? So which is a this fetch method is given by Fetch API, and this method is available anywhere in the context of my code. So we can use it anywhere in the code, right? In anywhere, because this is a global method, so we can use it anywhere. So I'm going to handle this one inside this method. So fetch method accepts some arguments, right? So the first mandatory arguments will be the URL. So the URL is what? URL is an endpoint, an API where we want to make a post request. So for now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to the JSON placeholder, and here where I can get access to some fake APIs with all the methods. So here if you can see, we have a post method, post request to this post/post. Okay. So I'm going to take this one, this get/posts, but this is the this we are going to have a post request. The method will post, right? So this is the endpoint where I'm going to make a post request. So our URL is ready to make a post request. Now when we are making post request, we need some additional arguments. We need to pass some additional argument to the fetch API, right? And this is going to be an object, a collection of object. So an object basically where we will pass some properties and the values, right? So the first parameters, the first key and value will be method. So what is method again? So method basically allow you to set which HTTP method you want to use. So in our case, we want to use HTTP method, post HTTP method, right? So this will be post. Okay, this method will be post. So if you're creating a get request, then you can mention it get here, or if you're making a put or delete request, then you can make put or delete. Since I am going to create a post request, so I'm just writing post here, right? The next compulsory argument will be headers. So what is headers again? So headers, you need to set the proper headers while making a post request so that your API will get to know which type of data you are sending, right? So basically headers will be an object again, okay? And here we should mention what type of data we are going to post to the server. So in our case we are going to post a JSON data, right? So the type will be, the content type will be JSON. Content type will be application slash JSON, correct? So this headers has to pass while doing a post request. What type of data you are going to pass? Since I am going to pass a JSON data, so this will be content type slash application slash JSON. Okay. Now the third parameter will be the body, and this is the mandatory one again. What is body again? So body is where you will send your data to the server. Okay. So, but body doesn't accept JavaScript object. Okay. So please make a note of it. Body will not accept JavaScript object. So what body will accept then? Body will accept JSON one, but the stringify one. So kind of string like JSON body will accept. Okay. So to do that, what we have to do, we have to first, since we are passing JSON one, right? JSON data. So JSON dot, we have to do stringify. Okay. Now we can pass the object inside. Whatever data we are going to pass, we can pass the data here. So what data we are going to pass here? If you can see uh, the request, the endpoint, it accepts user ID, title, and body. So we have to pass these four parameters as a post request, right? So I'll just make copy of this properties. User ID I'm going to pass as 2. Okay. Okay, this is a number, so we can just pass without any double quotes, and which will be comma separated, right? Same like an object. And the ID will be, again I'm passing 2 comma, then the title, let's say what I'm going to pass, the title will be post request, right? And the fourth one will be the body. This is a post request. Okay. Don't get confused about this body and this body. Okay, this body is just a key value pair to the object, and this is the body we are passing as an arguments to this fetch API. Okay, so this data I'm going to post to my server. Okay, that is correct. Now what will happen by doing this? Now we are ready to make a post request to the server. Okay, now what will happen? This fetch method will return a promise with the response data. So as I've already mentioned, if something returns promise, then we have to handle it through dot then. Okay, so this will have access to something called, this promise will have access to something called response, and also we have we have we have catch method where we can handle, if we have any potential errors, then we can handle it inside catch block, right? Okay, now inside then what we have to do, response will returns a response data, right? As I've already discussed in the get request, this response will returns a response data. Okay, and that also returns a promise. So what we have to do now, return response. Since we have to convert our request, whatever the post request we are getting, we have to convert it to JSON. Okay, since this fetch method returns a promise, it returns a promise with response data. This is the response data we are getting. If for your understanding, I can also make it as response data. Okay, response data. And to convert this response data, because this is going to be a raw response data, right? To convert this response data to a proper format, to a proper JSON format, we have to use .json, right? Now this response data .json method will again return a promise, right? Now what we have to do, we have to change the promise again. So then this will have access to data. This callback will have access to the data, right? Now if I'm going to console.log data, then we should get the success response of the post request, right? So let's check this one in my browser. Now if I go to the browser and I refresh the page, we got the button, and I'm opening the console here. Now if I am doing, and let's go to the network and see what we are sending in the post request. So if I am going to click this button, you can see pending, then the response is the status is success 201. And if you can go to payload, then you can see the body, this is a post request, this is what we are sending, right? The body, this is the post request, id is 2, id is 2, user id we are sending to, user id we are sending to, post request, title we are sending as post request. So the payload we are sending, and what we are getting as a response we are getting this one. So we made a success, I mean the API is success now, and we made a post request to the API, and this is success now because we got the response from the API, the user ID, title, body. This is a post request. So we are now ready to make a post request. I mean the post request is ready now. So if you can go to the console and see, we got the desired output. Whatever we are sending, that response we are getting it back. This is the post request ID 101, post request user ID 2, right? So this is how we can handle a post request using fetch API in JavaScript. So I hope you have now a clear understanding about how we can make a post request using fetch API. This is very simple, and this is a common use case we are using whenever we are handling any front-end application, because posting data to a server is a common usage, and it's a common interview questions as well. So this is very simple. So yeah, so this is all about the post request. So if you really like this video, subscribe to Frontend Techies, and yeah, share and like with your friends, and I'll see you soon in the next. Thank you.